so we're going to jump into the class. For the people that don't know who I am, and I know we have people from all over the country on this class. So I've been selling real estate for almost 19 years now. I'm the owner of the #1 real estate team in Denver, the Bartic Group at Keller Williams Real Estate. Also the owner of amazing Keller Williams Integrity Brokerage with over 200 fantastic agents. So I've been everything from an assistant, and talking about today's class, I used to do almost 3 to 6 CMAs a day when I worked as an active assistant for a top producer years ago. So I would do CMAs. She was going on constant listing of presentations all the time. She never did CMAs herself, so I would be the one that would do those for her. So I don't even know how many CMAs I've done in the course of my life, but it's definitely in the thousands and thousands. So I should be a good resource. I've been an individual agent. I've been on a team. I've been a team owner and now a brokerage owner. So I've covered almost every facet of the residential real estate game. So should be a good resource for any questions you have today. But other than that, let's jump into the most powerful CMA on earth. This CMA has helped me over the years list and sell over 2,500 homes myself personally. It's the same CMA we use for our team. It's the same exact thing that we use for every presentation. So we know it works. Are there other variations that are good out there that I'm sure that also have success? I'm sure there are. This is what's worked for us. All right. So I'll go through it, give you every kind of piece of it, and we'll dive in. So the first thing we need to talk about is what the difference is between a CMA versus an appraisal. I have agents all the time that I work with and that talk to me about, hey, I'm really trying to dial in this price to the exact penny. And, you know, Brendan, how much value would you give for a 1-car garage? How much value would you give for a 2-car garage? How much value would, and all of these things. So we got to first dial in the fact that a CMA is not an appraisal. Okay. So if you're looking at the screen, you can see that. So a CMA is a tool used by real estate professionals that examines the comparable properties to determine the market value. An appraisal is a to-the-penny assessment provided by a licensed appraisal, usually to support the amount a bank will finance. Not all the time. So they're two very different things. What we're trying to do with a comparative market analysis is, in the best way possible, explain to the seller, the client, what the market is willing to bear for that property today. Okay? That's going to help them dial in that price to make sure that they get the property, home or land or whatever it is, condo, sold. So that's the first piece that we want to dive into. Don't get into all of the logistics of, I need to have this, you know, if it has a hot tub and the other one doesn't have a hot tub, how much do you value for a hot tub? Is that $1,500? Is that, how much do you value for this kitchen versus that kitchen? I'm going to take you through and make this very simple. So when you're talking to the seller, you can make sure that they understand it, they remove their emotion from it, and then that way you can get into a logical discussion of what a buyer would be willing to pay in today's market. All right. So selling factors. Now, I always ask this, and Anna, I think we even talked about this. So yeah. Anna, let me ask you a question. What do you think are the two, or what do you think are the main factors that cause a home to sell?
I think if I wasn't in real estate, I would probably think it has something to do with maybe marketing, the agent that I pick, or the renovations I've done in the last year to my home.
Yeah, absolutely. The market, the renovations, the agent you pick, all of these is what I hear people say all the time. When in fact, we know what actually causes a home to sell is 2 factors, price
Marketing
and time.
Price. Right.
Okay. So price and time. Now, those are the 2 only factors that affect a home to sell. If you price a garbage home that is disgusting and smells like cat pee and all of this, if you price it well enough, that home's going to sell. Number 1. Now, if you overprice that same home that smells disgusting, looks disgusting, and you price it overpriced, in enough time, it will still sell, right? It might take 10, 15 years for that price to get there, but in time, it will sell. So once you really understand that the only two factors that cause a property to sell are price and time, then you realize that all of us as real estate professionals, what we're doing is we're providing a consultation to make sure that we enhance that process to get them to the finish line. Okay, so it's the same thing. I could go get my oil changed or I could change my oil myself, right? And I could go ahead and do that, and I'm sure I could figure it out. It would take me hours and hours. It would be an absolute nightmare, and I'd probably screw something up. That's the same thing as far as us being real estate professionals. We're providing a service. We're providing a consultation that's going to help them hopefully make the best decisions possible to net the most money possible. Now, here's some of the other things I always get questions about. Well, Brennan, you don't understand, my marketing is the reason why my houses sell so much. Brennan, you don't understand that my staging is the reason why my houses sell for so much more. I've heard every agent go, what staging causes your home to sell 7% more on average than other homes that are not staged. Who do you think came up with that percentage? Stagers. That's who came up with that percentage. Now, don't get me wrong, a staged home versus a non-staged home, does that have a factor on getting the property to sell? Well, if all factors were equal, sure it would. Right? If you have two identical condos, one was staged and one was not, would that maybe have an effect on that property getting sold? Possibly, right? But at the end of the day, I would take any home that's staged and beautiful versus a property that I price correctly to the market, to the demand, and it will outsell that staged property every single time. All right. So that's why this class is going to be invaluable for a lot of you. Is I'm going to teach you these techniques on making sure that when you're explaining pricing strategies to a seller in any type of situation, they completely understand and make it to a logical decision at the end to price it at a price that's going to cause the home to sell. Okay. And so we'll take questions through the entire process of this because I know I'm going to get a lot of them, but that's the whole point. All right. So let's talk about the components of a powerful CMA. Now, the 6 components of a powerful CMA are market stats, so market statistics. Now, we're going to be providing you a link in the chat box for a discount code to the company that we use to do all of our market stats, which is called Altos Research, okay, ALTOS. It's a great company. We use it in all of our printed presentations, our virtual listing presentations. We use it. It also sends out market reports monthly to all of our clients. Now, you don't have to do that. You can use another company, and I'm going to talk about that here in a second. You can use the title company and different things, but you need to always have market statistics because market statistics are going to help me provide the leverage points that sellers are going to need to understand on what decisions they need to make sure that they have a successful sale. Next thing, you need to have your public record report. So again, all of the details of the property. I'm going to show you our full CMA. I'm going to show you our exact CMA in the entirety. You need to have a map so you can show them an aerial in your MLS of, hey, we're talking apples to apples, not oranges to apples. You need to have comparables, the stats one-pager, which I'm going to show you here in a second, and then intelligent pricing sheets. All right, so those are the 6 components of a powerful CMA. So let's start with those market stats. Now, when we're looking at the market stats, this is an example of what the Altos report looks like. You can pay for the Altos reports. I think it's, I don't know, I think it's like $35 a month. If you have a big team, it gets a little bit pricier, but go ahead and check it out. You get a 20%, I believe, and a discount code today if you use the code that we provided. So, or 30%.
$25 off. Everyone should have the promo code in the chat box. So feel free to use that. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah. These are one of the, think about this. If you were a carpenter, you would need a hammer and some nails. This is your tools that you need to do your job at a very high level. All right. Now I get people all the time that say, hey, Brennan, I can just walk into an appointment, sit down with the client and just talk to them about what they want to price it at. And then I know kind of generally what the price should be. And then I come out and I price it at that and it usually sells. Cool. Right. That's one way to do it. I'm not talking about selling 10 homes a year. I'm talking about selling 100, 200, 500, 1,000 homes a year. This is what the top producers across the nation utilize. This is their skills. Now, can everybody interpret this and do it different? Of course you can. I'm telling you what works. And especially if you're in a competing market where you're competing against other agents, this is going to put you and stand you apart from being just another average schmuck that's coming into their house. This is going to make you look like the professional, like the the bad mamma jamma that you are, you have to establish that you understand the market, okay? So you can get these for free from the title company. You can also use your local MLS to do that. So if you want to run the stats through there, or you can just Google local market stats, and you can do that and not pay $1, you know, if you're looking to do it that way. I just wanted the most comprehensive stats that I could possibly have, and Altos provided it for me. So as you see on this image right here, you can see that the main ones that this covers are average price per square foot, average days on market, all of these things that I'm going to need to be able to explain to people to tell them what they need to expect that's going to happen in the market that could affect the sale of their property. All right, so market stats. Next, what's in your actual CMA, all right, in the comparative market analysis. So we're always going to start, and this is the simple thing. People ask me a lot too, well, Brendan, why don't you use like Cloud CMA or one of these other things? I've walked into listing appointments after an agent was interviewing, and they would have a CMA that was about 60, 70 pages thick. And I would be like, oh my goodness, right? And they must have been there for, gosh, who knows how long, trying to go through a 60 to 70 page market analysis to make the seller understand their home. And then I've also gone into properties where I've gone on listing appointments after other agents and taken the listing. And I go, well, I know you interviewed 3 agents today or 2 agents. So what did they cover in the market analysis? And the seller, you know, they'd be like, well, they didn't bring a market analysis. So they didn't bring a detailed market analysis so you could establish a pricing strategy to get the highest amount possible for the home? No, we kind of talked about some of the comps and briefly talked about it, but yeah, no, they just asked us what we should list the price or what we wanted to list it at, and told us that, yeah, that should work. What do you know, that's not a strategy. That's a prayer. That's a hope. Okay. So we want to make sure that we come in looking sophisticated. And when you do this at a high level, this system is so easy that you can do this in minutes. It's not like it's something that takes all day. I also talk to a lot of agents that are spending 8, 9, 10 hours. They're nervous all week. Their stomach hurts about their CMA. Hey, can you help me with the pricing on this? I'm all over the place on it. That's what I want to help you with. This will help you get past those objections. This will help you in your own mindset to feel confident in the information that you're providing. So, public record report. Okay, got to have that. County tax record, you can also find it in the tax records, depending on where your location is. The things we're looking for is that I need to have the home, the above ground square footage, the finished square footage, beds, baths, last sold date, and price. All right, now pro tip, make sure you verify the square footage and the location during the seller pre-qual. So on our Facebook, private Facebook group, which Anna will have a link in here, we provide you our lead form, which shows you exactly how to do this pre-qual conversation on the phone. So one of the things I'm always asking on that phone call is to verify the square footage. I've got the property up in front of me because I don't want to be comping a 1,000 square foot house and find out that it has a finished basement and is 1,800 square feet finished. That changes a lot of the parameters of my market analysis. So I've got to verify that. The other massive thing I have to dial in is lot location, okay? So if I'm looking at Google Maps, I'm looking at the aerial, I'm seeing what the property backs up to. I'm also asking the seller. So, you know, hey, John, I'm super excited to meet with you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Hey, I'm looking at the property. I just got a couple of questions here. So looking at the aerial, you do back up directly to XYZ hiking trail, the power lines, the home behind you, the train tracks. And they'll be like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we do. Yeah, we don't even notice the power lines. It's not a big deal at all. Yeah, we actually prefer the power lines. I'm like, oh, good. Yeah, excellent. So perfect, right? So you'll get a lot of these interesting answers where you're like, great, but I need to know what I'm walking into for that CMA to be effective. So lot location is big. Then the question that I ask every single time, so John, is there anything that would materially affect the value of the property, good or bad? Any updates or upgrades you've done? And on the other side of that, anything you think would be a concern for a buyer? For example, new roof, new kitchen? Do you have any structural issues? You have to prompt them some examples because they're like, no, everything's fine. And then you mention one thing and they're like, oh yeah, actually, we did have the entire property flood about a week ago and there's mold everywhere. Yeah, we'll be fine, right? You've got to get this information out of them. So I need to know accurate square footage. I need to know condition of the property, and I need to know what the view is or lack of view or location of that property is to make sure I understand what I'm looking at. All right. Now, if you're doing country properties, farms, which I've sold plenty of farms, plenty of mountain homes, you know, then we're talking a different conversation. We're talking about acreage, and we're talking about outbuildings, and we're confirming all of these different things. The list could go on and on. Remember, the most effective listing presentation you're going to have is being prepared with as much information as you possibly can have. So ask a lot of questions. Ask as much as you can. If you can find old photos, look at that. If you can find anything, get them, you know, stock this house like you stock your, you know, your ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, right? Like look up everything you possibly can to find out about what you're walking into, all right? So make sure you know what you're walking into. Cool. Now, in every MLS, you should have a page that looks just like this. I know it varies from different counties and states and countries, and I know we've got people here from all over the world. So if we're talking about that and looking at this, you have somewhere in there a map page. So we're just going to show them the actives, under contracts, and pending properties that are currently available that are comparable to their property. I'm going to talk to you in a moment how I select comparables. But I want this page so they can see that, okay, yes, this comp is in my neighborhood. Yes, this is in the area. Yes, this is here. And they know that we're looking at apples to apples, because they might go to you, and I get this all the time. Well, Brennan, you forgot to mention that one I'm in Westminster, right? You forgot to mention that house that's in Broomfield or a whole nother city. And I'm like, no, I understand that. And I appreciate that, Susie, but we're in Westminster. That's in another city. So when we're looking at comparables, unfortunately, when unless we find a cash buyer, the buyers, and even then they're going to do an appraiser, the appraiser is going to go and look at all of the comparables in the area, and they're going to use the top 3 comparables that were closest in location, style, and size to your actual comparable to value that property that have closed in the last 6 months. So everything I do with my clients, Susie, is to make sure that not only do we price the property, but we price the property so it appraises and you actually sell so you can get to Arizona, enjoy the grandkids. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's what we're doing here, is making sure that we stay away from, you know, fantasy land and stay in the realm of reality. That's the big piece we've got to focus on. Okay. So this also shows any difference in location. Now, if I'm in a golf course community and one property's on the golf course and on the map, the other property is sitting there backing up to another house, is there going to be a difference in price? Of course there is. Now, you might be thinking to yourself and asking yourself, well, Brendan, are you going to tell us what that price difference is? Yes, I'm going to explain that as best I can on how you explain that value, but it's not as complicated as you might think. All right. So
now, Brendan,
before
we move on to comps, our friend Kim Harp has a question about public records. So what if the public records are significantly different? How do you go ahead and get that changed?
Well, if you wanted to get it changed, that would be the first thing. So a lot of times if the square footage is smaller, then the seller is saving money on taxes, and that's totally fine. What you have to do is make sure that whether you have building plans, this just came up. I just sold a house, literally. We were under contract at $1.5 million. The house, the appraiser came to measure the house, and public records said that this house was 7,000 square feet. The house ended up being 5,500 square feet. There was a 1,500 square foot difference in finished square footage. It was like another house wasn't accurately, you know, depicted in there. And so, you know, went through the whole entire process. I had to go through all of this, you know, measured it, brought in another person to measure it. So remember, with square footage, the seller is saying, hey, look, either we're verifying off of public records that this is what the square footage is, buyers to verify all measurements, as we all know, right? But if you have building plans, measurements, anything like that, you can always provide them. If on the other side of that, if your house is way bigger than what the public records say, then of course you want to promote that and say, look, here are the building plans, and here's all the measurements we have. But Mr. Buyer, please feel free to verify yourself, right? That's all we can do is have the buyer verify. So yeah, square footage questions, and these come up all the time. Again, verify yourself or get it measured. That's all we can do. All right. All right. So comps. So as you can see here, when we're talking about comparables and we're looking at these images, okay, the reason we're looking at this is we've got so if you're, anytime you're putting together a very powerful market analysis, you want to keep it simple, very, very simple. So I'm always trying to find the 3 closest actives, if available, listed lowest price to highest price that I'm going to put in my CMA. So 3 actives, lowest price to highest price, then the 3 under contracts, if available, lowest to highest, and then 6 closed, lowest to highest. Now, the close by far and away are the most important part of this market analysis. Now, if there's not actives, then you can't use actives. If there's nothing for sale and there hasn't been, don't pull some random comp. If there's nothing under contract in a general area that's within 500 square foot of the property, and I'm going to talk about square footage here because this isn't a golden rule. When we talk about pricing, there is no golden, black and white, perfect rule. What you have to think about, and here's what I think about all the time, is I'm going into a courtroom to defend my case to this jury, and I'm going to show them, just like in a courtroom, everything why they should, be like, hey, not guilty or guilty, depending on how you're going in it. And I'm going to provide them with the best information to win what I feel is the price that's going to cause this home to sell in the next 30 days. That's the case that I'm going into every day. So what I'm trying to do is provide simple, logical information to provide to the seller, to the jury, to make them get to that decision. And as you know, with attorneys, the people that get paid the most money do this at the highest level, right? If I'm a public defendant and I'm not really good at what I do, I'm not saying public defendants are not good at what they do, but if I'm not, Johnny Cochran or one of these guys out there doing all this, they get paid for doing the same job as other people do at 100 times different, because they're very good at explaining things in a logical manner to get to a decision. So what we have here is with comps is the actives are fantasy land. That's why we have the picture of Disneyland. So that's what sellers are hoping to get, dreaming to get, that we don't know what the heck's going to happen. You could price a property, I hear people say all the time, well, the other one's listed for sale at XYZ amount. Yeah, it's listed for sale. I could put my car for sale for $600,000. It's probably not going to sell for that, but I could do it. I could list it on Craigslist for that. It'd be super fun. Not going to do much, right? So that's fantasy land. Under contracts are the pulse of the market. So this is telling us what is happening right now, but we're not quite sure where these properties are going to close out because they're under contract and not closed. And then we have welcome to reality, closed sales. We know that money's being exchanged, we're done and dusted, and everybody is gonna, move away from this knowing that those numbers are exactly right. So you've got reality. Now, when you're trying to pull together those comparables, so easiest way to do this, you're in your MLS, you're looking at this, you're gonna put in your parameters, and first, you're always going to start small and then go out, all right? So you might start with 500 square feet in a radius of whatever the neighborhood is, depending on, and gals, this, if you're doing a CMA for country properties versus city properties versus condos, yes, there is a lot of different kind of techniques in this, but just think about it logically, right? If I'm in a neighborhood, I'm going to start with the closest radius to the property to try to obtain 3 actives, 3 under contracts, and 6 sold. So then I'm going to start to increase my radius and slowly start to move out, but not going outside of a common sense neighborhood, right? Not going to do that. And then I'm also going to stay within 6 months, just like an appraiser. So at all costs, I'm going to try to stay in within 6 months. And then on top of that, I'm going to try to stay as close to above ground square footage as I possibly can. Now, here's the thing I always get a lot of questions on. Well, Brendan, the finished square footage of this one house is 7,000 square feet, and it's 3,500 up, and the other house is 3,500 up, but the finished square footage is 5,000. How do you make up that difference in the finished square footage? Well, this is what we're going to show you on the single line stat pages. It just comes down to averages, statistical averages, and then common sense. Okay, so I'm going to break some of those processes down for you so you can have those pricing objections and answer them very simply. Okay, so then the other piece, as I'm going out of my radius, I'm either going to go further out, I'm going to go up or down in up and down in square footage until I have enough comparables to do my job. Now, let's say you're in some bizarre area. You're up in a real rural part of your wherever you're at. Let's say you're in a very small mountain town, and there hasn't been anything sold at this square footage for 2 years. What do you do? All right. In that case, all we're going to do is, again, go back to common sense and go, okay, I'm going to look at, even, taking a look at the comparables. I've got this random property. If I had, let's say that property was, let's say right now, if I was a buyer and I had $500,000 to spend, what would I spend my money on in that general area versus my competition? Now, you might have to go to other small mountain towns. You might have to go further out, but all you're doing is explaining to the seller going, look, I know you want to list the property at 700,000, but there's this one, this one, this one that's currently available for sale that's been on the market for 300 and some odd days that currently right now are listed at 500,000. So Susie, using just basic kind of logic, how could we possibly get your home to 700,000? Okay. And we'll talk about that strategic pricing conversation here in a second. So, and then the last piece is to make sure you're talking tri-level to tri-level, ranches to ranches. If I'm doing a market analysis, do I sometimes have tri-levels, ranches, and bi-levels in there? Absolutely, but I try to not do that. And if anything, I'll also do a separate little line item one of just what ranches we're comping at. If the property is a ranch, a separate line item one of what the tri-levels we're comping at if it's a tri-level. Because what I want to show is that oftentimes in neighborhoods, tri-levels are going to sell traditionally at a lower price per square foot than ranches or traditional bi-levels. So if I'm going into a tri-level comparative market analysis, I need to be able to show the seller that, because they're looking at the house 2 doors down that's a bi-level and they're going, well, that one sold at 500, Brendan, but you're telling me 450 and I'm the same square footage as the bi-level. Maybe somebody will just happen to like the tri-level. Well, Susie, I can completely understand that thought process, but here's what we know. I looked up all the tri-levels in the area, and when you see the last 3 that sold, they sold for $250 a square foot, and all the bi-levels sold for $300 a square foot. So you see that in the eyes of the buyers, unfortunately, this floor plan, this way that this home is structured is not as appealing. So if you price it at that bi-level home, all that's going to happen is that you're going to waste a lot of time on the market. The property then over time is going to be a depreciating asset. Ever since the first day we list it, it's going to go down and down and down. And then you're going to end up getting low ball offers well below the number I'm telling you today, or what the number that the market's telling us today. So what would you like to do? Okay. So we've got to make it common sense. All right. The most powerful page in your CMA, the single line. Yep.
Sorry, I know you're on a good train of thought here, but I want to make sure that we answer Terry's question. She always has good questions. She asks, you use sold within the last 6 months, but if an appraiser uses them within the last 3 months from when they were there, how do you explain that to the sellers?
If the appraiser uses them from the last 3 months they were there. I'm not sure I quite understand the question.
When the appraiser goes out and they're measuring the house, aren't they using comps within the last 90 days from that date or from the date you went under contract? But when you did your CMA, which might have been several weeks or a month prior to that date, and you're using 6 months, so you could have some that are 3 or 4 months older than what they're using.
Correct. Yeah. Well said. Yeah. So now I understand the question. Yeah. So what she's saying is we could be on the market a month or two before we go under contract. Those comps have now changed over the last 6 months because now our comps could be 8 months old. Is that what you're saying? Yes. Okay. So if we're looking at that, then all that comes up in that conversation at the time with the appraiser is looking at when the property goes to go under getting appraised. Then yes, we can't use those comps that have now gone expired past that point. We can only use the most latest comps to be able to provide for that appraiser. So again, what market value happens in real time. All we're trying to do with the seller is provide them with the most accurate pricing strategy to get them the highest price possible at that time. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And we can't, right? We have no clue. People were thinking their price was going to be something totally different between once COVID-19 happened, and then boom, something like that happened, which I tell people all the time. I go, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. Here's where we're at right now. Let's make some logical decisions based upon what we know, not necessarily on so much speculation of the future. Now, you can use market stats to help speculate on, traditional seasonalities and all of these things, but I try to stay right now talking about what we know. Just the facts. Here's the facts. Boom, 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 boom. All right. So the single line stat page report is the most powerful page in your CMA because it removes the emotion from the conversation. Almost every MLS has this. If you can't figure out how to do this in your MLS, I've seen people do this in an Excel spreadsheet. I've seen them, cloud CMA. I've seen it a lot of different ways, but the single line stat page is the easiest possible way to do this. And when you look at the comps side by side, and you've got your 3 actives, your 3 under contracts, your 6 solds, what we're really dialing in on is looking at average days on market, finished above ground price per square foot, or excuse me, above ground square foot on average, and then finished price per square foot averages. Okay, we don't really mess with the total that, and depending on your MLS, that we just don't really need to worry about that number. That includes unfinished mechanical rooms sometimes and all of that. Above ground finished and price per square foot finished, okay? So if you look at those 2 numbers and we're talking about pricing, we first start out with the active. So when I pull out the stat page and it's all bound in my nice CMA, when I'm showing them that, I go, okay, now we reviewed all of the comparables. And if we go back to this, right? So I go the 3 actives, lowest to highest, 3 under contracts, lowest to highest, and then the 3 closed sales, lowest to highest. As I'm going through those comparables and I'm reviewing each one with them in detail, I'm also asking them throughout the conversation a simple thing. If I'm looking at certain homes, I go, okay, great, especially on the closed sales. So with this property at 123 Elm Street, Susie, do you think that your home is comparable to this property, better than this property, or not quite as good as this property? It's a simple question to ask them on all 6 comps. And then you'll hear every story under the sun. Oh my gosh, I know that property. That was John and Elizabeth. They got a divorce. They had to fire sell that house. She was cheating on him. She was all over town being a little hussy. Everybody in the neighborhood knows about it. So that's the reason for the sale. And you're like, okay. Especially if they know the neighborhood, every story has some reason why it sold for $100,000 less than their property, right? There's some magical reason why that happened. And they're going to let you know. And they're going to go, oh yeah, but you see that other property backs to the corner. So that's where the mailman stops every day. So you hear that mailman's truck. I would never buy that house. Not me. No, yeah, ours is way better than that. So you're looking at those things and you're just going, you're always agreeing. Okay, I appreciate that. Excellent. Okay. And you're just making mental notes. So when you get to this stat page, now we can take away the emotion from it and go, okay, look. So based on the 3 actives, the average price per square foot is at X. The finished is at X. They've been on the market an average days of X, and this is where the pricing's at. The under contracts, same thing here. And then as we get into the closed sales, when we're reviewing this, now one of the techniques you've got to learn when you're getting into doing CMAs at a high level is you have to learn the technique of reading upside down. And everybody's like, what are you talking about, Brendan? Like reading upside down. So when I'm in a presentation, and let me grab my market analysis. When I'm in a presentation, okay, and I have my beautiful comparative market analysis, and I'm flipping through it, right? And I've got my comparables and I've got my map page. When I get to that stat page, okay, and I flip that stat page around, usually my sellers are sitting across from me or at the corner of the table. And when I get to this page, I want to put it in front of them. And then I want to be able to read some numbers upside down. This is a very practiced technique. Now I have a pen in my hand, I'm circling things, I'm making it interactive, but I go through boom, 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 and I take them all the way over to the final part of the bottom section of the closed properties, or closed property single line, which is original price to list price to close price and sales price to list price percentage. All right. So if I'm having this conversation and I say, Okay, so we had Fantasyland here with the actives. They're at 188 a square foot, or finished square foot on this one, it's a little bit small. So yeah, 188. We have the pending properties have closed at, or are currently at 204 a square foot. And then we've got the closed properties at XYZ at 196 a square foot. So looking at that, just to kind of have an idea. Now, Susie, we don't price properties just by price per square foot, but just to give us an indicator, let's take your finished square footage and multiply it times this number. So I take their finished square footage, so whatever that is, multiply it times 196, and there's a number. And then let's do your above ground the same way, okay? Now, does this work all the time in weird areas? No. You know, if price per square foot isn't gonna help your case, don't go into price per square foot. It's not gonna make any logical choice. If price per square foot's gonna help you, go into price per square foot. Because here's what's gonna happen. After I go through this single line stat report with them and just go through all of the information, the paper sitting in front of me, and I go, Anna, so Anna, based upon everything we just went through, what would you like to list the home at for it to sell in the next 30 days? Then I shut up, right? And this is the hardest part. You just got to be very quiet. You have to shut up and just sit there and stare at them with a geeky little smile like this. They look at each other. So she'll look at her counterpart. If it's just herself, she'll start thinking about it and she'll go, blah, and they'll spit out some number. And you're like, okay. So let's just pretend that this one, we're talking 500, and she goes, well, 550. Okay. So then I take that 550 number, divide that number by the price per square, or by the average price per square foot of both numbers. And there's usually a major discrepancy in those two numbers. So you see, so Anna, based upon, or Susie, I know I'm using all kind of weird names today. I'll just use Anna from here on out. But so you see, Anna, when we're looking at these numbers, at 550, you would be at $275 a square foot. And you can see that every other home that's sold in the last 6 months, the actives, all this, they all have been at $250 a square foot. So I'm with you. How I want to make sure you get the highest price possible too. Tell me where we're getting an extra $25 a square foot of value compared to the other properties that sold. Okay. Now they'll go, Brendan, we just put new linoleum in the laundry room. Brendan, you don't understand that my sink have nickel-plated faucets. Brendan, you don't, I understand, but that's why, Anna, we go through averages, right? We look at averages and make sure that we look at, because wouldn't you agree some of these properties may have had some advantages that your property maybe didn't have, right? I appreciate everything your property has, but that's why we're looking at it as a whole, okay? So all I'm doing here, and I use this page, and I'll sit on this page for 5-10 minutes until we get this logically bought into the number process. And I'll sit there and we'll be talking about it until they completely understand. Now, if price per square foot does not work for your comparable, then I'm going back to the comparables. All right. So after I still go through the whole process, I don't even worry about the price per square foot. I still use this page. And I just go, okay, so here's the actives, comparables. You can see them all kind of side by side here. So Anna, based upon all of that, where would you like to list the property at for it to sell in the next 30 days? They say some crazy number. Okay, I understand that. Okay, so 550,000. Now, all right, if we go back to the comparables, the highest priced one that sold was at 539. They were listed at 544. It took them 89 days to go under contract. Now, I know you told me that you needed to be in Arizona, by, the next 60 days. So you can see if we listed it at that, we're going to be another $10,000 higher than the highest comparable that's ever sold. And Anna, by the way, this property is actually another 300 square feet bigger than yours. So it's bigger. It took 89 days and it sold for less than you're wanting to list at today. So Anna, can you just talk me through that? Because I want to get you there. I want to get the buyers there. I want to get you every dollar, but can you tell me how to get to that number? All right. And you have to do this for every comp. And that's why when you're going through your closed comps, you're saying better, the same, or same, better, or not as quite as good, right? Because now you're gauging them. If they go, hey, somewhere in there, that property is very similar to mine. It's very, very similar to mine in so many different ways. Then you can easily flip back to that property and be like, okay, let's go through that property then, right? And you just kind of, all right, let's take you through it. All right, so the single line stat page is probably the most powerful tool. Now you're going to start getting, this is where we start getting into pricing objections and maybe pricing questions and all kind of things. So when we do that, we have two charts that we're going to provide on our private Facebook page. So Anna will have that link posted, which is called the intelligent pricing chart and then our intelligent timing chart. Now, this is a simple chart that I've been using, I think, for 15 years now. And I don't even remember where I got it. I got it from, I think, some old school Coldwell Banker listing presentation from years ago, but it's been that good to me. And you can almost see how it's kind of still fuzzy. And well, this is on a PowerPoint, but the principle of this works so perfect. So they go, you know what, Brendan, you see what we want to do is we want to list at X, 550 and market values at 500. I go, okay. Well, we just looked at the price per square foot and the market value based upon everything brings us in on market value about 500 grand. So if you look at this intelligent pricing chart, Anna, if we list at, and you go XYZ number, we're going to be 15% above the asking price of where market value's at, which means we're going to lose up to 30 to 40% of the buyer pool that would be interested in your property. Now, you don't want to lose any interested buyers, correct, Anna? Yeah, no. I know you don't, right? No one does. Now, when I'm writing on this and it's upside down again, and because I read upside down and I practice that skill, I'm circling the top. I go, we don't want to be here and we don't want to be at the bottom of this triangle. We want to be in this real nice fat center part because that's where you get the highest priced amount for your home. Does that make sense? And then they look at you and they go, mm-hmm. Now they're still angry in their head because they're like, I want this number because if I get this number, then I get to buy this in the new property. They're still based in emotion. I want this number based upon this. So they may not be in love with this idea, but they're getting it, right? They're going to understand it. Now, the second thing, so now here comes their second objection. Well, Brendan, can't we just start a little bit higher and always come down later? Can't we just do that? Like, what's the harm in that? Why can't we start at 550 and if there's no buyers, we just drop the price? Okay, then I take them to my favorite intelligent timing chart. So, Anna, as I know you're aware, the most activity we're going to have on this home is in the first 2 to 3 weeks that we're on the market. Heck, sometimes it could be in the first weekend. After that, based upon where the market's at, we become stale potatoes, right? We become old news. We become not that interesting. And you see the activity will drop off dramatically after that. So by week 6, 7, or 8, and I always draw on the paper with my pen, I draw a little another bump over week 7 and 8, and it's not as big as the big bump. And I go, even if we did a price adjustment by week 6, 7, or 8, we would never get back to that original activity that we had in week 1, week 2, week 3. Now, you do want to get the most money possible, correct, Anna? Yeah, of course you do, right? I know you want every single dollar out of this. So that's the fallacy of that. If we list high and come down later, what will happen is every day that we put the property on the market, the first day that we list the property on the market, we become a depreciating asset from that day moving forward. All right. The best chance that we have to get you the maximum price for this home is day 1. Every day after that, we get a little less interesting. Buyers go, I can get a better deal. And as we start to fall, then like I said, if we do a price reduction, I always look at this, I go, it's like doing the cardiac arrest. We're trying to pump life back into this dead body to bring this property back to life, but it's never really the same. Right? It's just not the same, right? You're just not the same. So Anna, let's do the right thing. The market is telling us to list the property right now at 500,000. Okay? That's it. All right? So those are powerful conversations. So these are tools that you're going to use that are simple tools: intelligent pricing, intelligent timing, and single stat page report. These three tools in your toolbox remove emotion from this conversation. Well, Brendan, what about the fact that we put in under cabinet lighting? What about the fact, Brendan, that here's my favorite one. Here's my favorite one. Just happened to me the other day with my clients, and I love my clients. Two of the nicest clients I've ever worked with, right? We're having a conversation about pricing. They want to list it at $485, okay? All the comps, the highest comp that's ever come in is at $465, and they go, Brendan, so here's the benefits of our house. We just got a brand new $10,000 roof on the house. $10,000 roof, Brendan. So again, that should easily put us at $475. And then we put the under cabinet lighting, we put this, we put that, we put this, right? All of these things. And I go, okay, with the roof, all you did was replace something that was deficient and broken on the house. You didn't upgrade the home by fixing something that was a problem. Everybody should move into the home with a good roof, right? So if your roof was bad, you're not upgrading the roof, you're replacing a problem that was already existing, number one, okay? And you have to say this with a lot of empathy and compassion. And again, anytime I'm talking about stuff that sucks, I whisper, right? So I'm like, look, I get it. The roof is awesome, but here's the thing, right? And that's how you have to go through it. So anytime you're delivering bad news, pricing, whisper, right? Whisper, whisper, whisper. And just be empathetic. You're not trying to, some people take this the wrong way where it's like, well, Brendan, you're just trying to get it to price as low as possible to sell as fast as possible. That is not correct. The buyers set the market value for the property, not me. All I'm trying to do as a consultant with my clients is advise them on what's going to get them what they want in the time frame they want, and what's not going to hurt them in the future. If they overprice it in the beginning, I do know that that will hurt them in the future. All right. Now, the other thing with CMAs that's extremely important is you have to go into this with the exact price you know this property will sell at. People go, well, Brendan, how could I possibly know that? That's, who knows how the buyers are going to react to the property. I hear this all the time. Well, Brendan, I think if we put it like between 550 and 600, I should be pretty straight in that area. That's a lot of that. That's $50,000 window. Do you think it'll sell in a week at 550, or do you think it'll sell in a week at 600? Which number do you think is going to cause it to sell in a week? Well, I don't know. I mean, this one over here sold at this, and this one over here sold at that, and this one. Based upon all of the data, what is that number that you put it on there, you're going to have offers and multiple offers in a week. If you're not looking at that type of pricing, you're totally screwed up in what you're looking at. Because that's what they're hiring you to do, is get the home sold. In your listing agreement, unless you're in some random place that I don't know about, in your listing agreement, is there any line item that says, got to make sure I price the home as high as possible to make sure that the seller gets the highest price possible? There hasn't been any listing agreement I've ever seen, right? Your job is to get them what they want, the property sold, okay? So that's the strategy that you have to go into when we're looking at that. All right, so let's put it all together, all right? Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you our CMA, so you can get what this looks like in full speed, and so you really have an understanding of how to use that. And for some reason, oh, there we go. Let me find it here. Interesting, it is not showing up, Anna. So give me one more second. It should be, oh, there it is. Took a second for it to load. Okay. All right. So this is the CMA that we use for our virtual listing presentations. This is a CMA that I use to send to out-of-state for rent by owners. This is the same exact CMA that I print out. That is the one that I'm holding right here in my hand, right? And this format is called Issue, ISUU, and it puts things into a beautiful digital brochure of whatever you want. So you could use this for your market analysis. You can use this for all kind of fun things. There's a free version that has ads, and then this is a paid version that removes all of those ads. So if I'm looking at that and I'm taking people through, it flips open like this, and then you see the stat page, right? So you've got the beautiful stat page we were just talking about, all that information there. And then this is the pages that I'm going to utilize to talk about what's happening in the market right now, okay? So if they go back and they go, you know what, Brendan, maybe we should just wait until spring. Maybe we should wait until after summer. Maybe we should wait until after the holidays. I use these stat pages relentlessly to explain to them the detriment that that could cause them one way or the other. And I'll talk about those specific things. Okay. Then you've got your public record report, your comp page, each statistical comp page with one-page map report or one-page photo report. Okay. I do want to have the photos on there, but I don't need all 75 pictures, right? One page, I'm trying to save on my color copying cost, right? I'm not trying to spend all this money. And here's the other thing. Spend the money to do a color CMA, right? Like you're about to go make 10 grand and I see people with some bootleg printouts stapled together in black and white, looking like a scrub, right? Good Lord, you think that your clients would like to see some color, right? I mean, spend the extra 20 cents a copy. It's worth it, all right? So then you flip through. So this is where you're gonna go through the comparables. Now, on a real one, on a real CMA, you're going to have, and I'll kind of show it here, things are going to be highlighted. I like to do highlights to draw attention to specific pieces that I want them to be interested in when I'm going through those comps. So if you see on a property here, there's certain things, since I'm reading upside down and it's small writing, that I'm going to highlight, that I'm going to draw their attention to on every single property. And those highlights are pretty simple. It's common sense. The square footage, the price, what it originally listed at versus sold at, any highlights in the property description. So it's got upgraded kitchen, this, that, or the other, the lot size, okay, and the year built. Those are usually what I have highlighted because again, I'm presenting upside down. I'm reading upside down. They're sitting across from me. And those highlights just make it a lot easier to represent that information. Now, after you do this a few thousand times, it'll be like breathing, right? You'll just be like, dot, 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 dot. You can read upside down. You're amazing. And I've won so many listings just because they were impressed by how I did the CMA. They go, Brendan, so you can read upside down? I go, yeah, no, it's like, it's one of the things that I've done this so much, right? Even before I had done it a lot, I had taught myself because I learned this from another top producer that did this skill. And I go, yeah, I've been in so many homes and I've met with so many sellers, just like yourself, to advise them on how to get the highest price possible for their home. I actually just learned this skill. And they're like, ooh, because guess who's not reading upside down, right? Your competition comes in and you're sitting next to them and you're flipping through the comps and you're in their personal space and you're trying to show them your market analysis. It's black and white, that's got crayon markers on it and all this stuff, coffee stains. That's why we win. Be a professional. Every listing appointment could be worth $1 million. You don't know if that client has 10 more properties they want to sell with you. You don't know if they're going to be one of your ambassadors that are going to recommend everyone in the world to you. You don't know. I get people that go, well, Brendan, you don't understand. My business is by referral. I very rarely compete. Okay, cool. Think about this. Whether you're competing or not, the level of your presentation depicts how much you get to charge people. Okay? Do you want to have a 7% commission, a 6%, a 5%, a 4%? All of it is decided in this presentation. One of the pro tips I tell everybody is study every single book you can on how to be a great presenter, a great interviewee. All I do is I get paid an exorbitant amount of money to present logical information, just like Johnny Cochran, right? I don't even know who that, I mean, I know who he is, but I don't know if that's a bad example or a good example. I don't know, right? But I get paid an exorbitant amount of money to be an amazing presenter and do presentations and interview for the job of either being your listing specialist, your buyer consult, or your buyer specialist, or I'm being there to advise you on how to reduce your price at some point if we need to, and how to have those conversations and leverage the market analysis as well. Remember, the market analysis is not only to establish the price, the market analysis also establishes future price adjustments in the as we go down the line if for some reason the buyers don't respond to the market, right? So you can see the stat page there, and then your intelligent pricing and timing page. Cool? And then why, you know, all of your fun stuff. So that is the comparative market analysis in a whole. Now I'm going to talk about how to use this with pricing strategies, answer a whole bunch of other questions because I know we've got some other things. So as we go into this, where is my stop share screen button? Oh, thank you, Anna. Did you do that for me?
Yep,
Excellent.
you're good.
Appreciate it. All right, so back to celebrity squares. So we're going to take a little, second here to talk about this. So feel free to unmute yourself. And what, I guess, ahas have you had? Thoughts, questions? Is this any different than how you're doing it? Is there any, details that you want to talk about as far as the nuances just about that CMA process?
And while people are popping off mute, Brendan, we've got a couple of questions that came through the chat box. If you want to take a look at those and see if there's a few you can't answer.
Sure. Let me pull up the chat box. There we go. Okay. So Zach asked, how do you respond when there is zero actives, inventory is low, and you feel you can push the market a little? Do you still price it a little higher? Great question, Zach. So if there's zero actives, meaning that we have low inventory and we're really driving the price, the only concern that I have about what he just said in there is, do you feel you can push the market a little, right? Do I feel? So nothing I ever do is based upon feelings, emotions, my thoughts, my opinion. It's if we price it at this price, Mr. Seller, we know that the buyers, you'll have multiple, well, more than likely, if the buyers respond well enough to it, you'll have multiple offers, which are going to do a couple of things for you. Number one, eventually get you the best price possible. Number two, it's going to give you the best terms possible because you're going to see people removing appraisal conditions. You're going to see people increasing earnest money. You're going to see people doing this. So Anna, when I'm presenting, when I want to get you the highest offer possible, it's not only about the price, it's about the terms. Okay. So if we're in a low inventory market, and I price the property to sell at market value, you're going to get better offers. If we nudge it up a little bit in anticipation of what we think the market's going to do, we might not get any offers at all. And you would rather have multiple offers instead of no offers at all, correct, Anna? So let's go ahead and do the right thing and put it at market value. Everything is market value. Market value. It's not what I think, what I feel, what I pretend, what I imagine, market value. So hopefully, Zach, that helped. If not, give me another comment telling me it sucked. I don't know. All right. And then, has Brendan ever done adjustments in his CMAs adjusting for a 3-bedroom to the subject to a 2-bedroom, for example? Yes. So here's where we can get into all my favorite CMA questions. There's 1,000 billion kajillion variations of all of these conversations. Remember, you'll drive yourself insane of going, okay, is a 3-bedroom, how much to the penny is a 3-bedroom more valuable than a 2-bedroom? How do you determine that number? That's extremely difficult to do because we're not an appraiser. We're not giving, appraised value exceptions. What I'm doing then is I'm looking at going, okay, right now, there's XYZ actives available that are 3-bedrooms listed at this. If again, there's no comparables for 3-bedrooms or 2-bedrooms or whatever it is, I'm looking at it, I'm saying logically, Susie or Anna, if we price it at this amount, we're going to be the best value overall in the eyes of the market. Doesn't matter if we're a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, this or that. So remember, all we're trying to do is put us in position to get an offer. Preferably multiple offers. Let me ask you this question and here's a mindset thing that I deal with a lot of agents I work with. Is it better to be a hero and have multiple offers with your seller, let the buyers determine the market value for it? Is it better to be a hero, or have you recommend and allow them to recommend to you to overprice the property, beat them up on price 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. They come down later, get less than that, and end up selling for less than what you told them originally. This is where you have 5 minutes in that presentation to make sure that you're the hero. You don't get paid extra for getting them an extra $3,000 in your list price scheme that you're thinking of. There's a price that you know will cause this home to sell. Okay? Period, end of story. What about a pre-listing packet? Yeah, Paul Jensen, a great question. So Paul, never include your CMA in the pre-listing package ever. Never, ever, ever include the CMA. I do use a pre-listing package. It has my, what we call our marketing plan of action, a nice handwritten note card, and that goes ahead of time, but I'm never sending the CMA. And the reason for that is, for some reason, I send the CMA there. I missed a comparable in the neighborhood that they think was, super valuable. They look at all the comps and they feel that I missed X, Y, and Z. I can't defend it if I'm not there. And if I'm competing, they'll go, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Cancel the appointment. I can't even show up. Okay. So I want to make sure that I can show up with that listing or the CMA so I can defend it and ask questions on the fly.
Brendan, I have a question about that. I was wondering, as far as when we're doing it virtually and we're sending it to people, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know we do send them the CMA in our pre-listing email. Yeah,
great question, Orlando. So yeah, when you're looking at that in a virtual world, we have to send the CMA ahead of time because we have to be able to have a conversation with them online at that set appointment. So yeah, that is a great question. Now, could you send the listing a presentation right when you start the appointment? That causes a lot of issues. So in the virtual world, we don't really have the ability not to send it ahead of time because we want them to review that. We want them to review the marketing plan of action. You want to be able to jump on that Zoom call and go through it. So yeah, unfortunately, unless you feel they're techie enough that the moment you have your Zoom, you're going to email them over the market analysis, you could do it that way. We haven't done it that way, but that's a great question. You could do it that way to kind of keep that suspense. But here's the thing, when you do it virtually, they barely ever even open your email, right? You talk to them, they're like, did you review the comps? You're like, oh yeah. And they're like, well, where's the compare? They don't look at it. When I send them something physically in their hand, how easy is it to just flip through? So that's the difference on the virtual. So great question. Market value, what about list to sold ratio? So this is from Betsy Edwards. So market value, what about list to sold ratio? What if the trend is 95% of list? God, great question, Betsy. Yeah. So when I'm looking at original list price versus final selling price, and as you just said here, if it's 95% of value, when I'm looking at those numbers, and again, when I look at the average finished price per square foot of sold that looked in there, that number is what actually sold. I don't go basically off of what the actives were. So when I'm looking at the finished price per square foot, that helps me determine market value. The list price to sales price ratio doesn't have much effect on that because I'm going off of the sold average price per square foot. You see what I'm saying? So it's interesting to tell them, and you could say, look, in your neighborhood, you can see that everybody listed here, but they ended up getting 5% less on average versus their asking price. Now, here's how I spin that, Betsy, is I go, they probably could have gotten a lot more right out of the gate and probably would have got either at asking price or over asking price if in the beginning they would have been priced appropriately to start with. So do you see that? So see, Anna, the problem is if you overprice the property, you could end up losing 5% of your equity like that with not having the right pricing strategy. It's a great question. Do you take, Dominique, do you take remodels into account when the comps are not remodeled or to the same degree? Absolutely. So basically, one's a dumpster, one's nice, right? Or one's okay and one's really highly upgraded. So yeah, when we're going through the photos and we're going through comp by comp, that's where I'm trying to identify with the seller in their logic, is this better, the same, or quite not as good? And we can see the photos there. Now, if there's no photos of the interior and it's garbage, well, then obviously you're going to know that that property is probably pretty rough, or you're going to have to assume that it is if there's not full photos of it. So yeah, that's how I'm going through looking at that. So if we're looking at, I always try to do this. Here's another pro tip. I try to price every property, regardless of how gross it is. So I'm sitting in a house, and I've had houses where literally I watched a raccoon run through the kitchen. Not kidding, true story, sitting there in a listing appointment, and a freaking raccoon runs through the kitchen. And I mean, the place is gross. I'm sitting, oh, by the way, I'm sitting in the kitchen on a bucket. I'm sitting on a bucket. And this guy lived there, and he didn't have furniture. I was on an upside down bucket doing a listing presentation in my suit to a guy that has raccoons wildly living in his house. So obviously that property wasn't as nice as some of the other homes, okay? So when I'm sitting there on this bucket, I try to look at it and go, I comp the property at what it would sell for in perfect condition. And then I start back. So if I'm in that property and it's a dumpster fire and there's gross, and people smoke in it, and I've seen everything. I was in one house, it was so disgusting. The walls literally were covered in yellow tar because the sellers had smoked in it for 50 years. 50 years, so the walls were tar, okay? When I'm looking at that kind of property, I've got to start with what is the price that it would sell for in perfect condition, and then strip back how much it would cost to fix it as best I can. And I use broad numbers. It's not like, hey, whatever you think it is, it's worse. So if it needs a full kitchen remodel, 40 grand. If it needs this, a 50. If it needs this, 100. And I'm stripping it back. And then I also have to explain to the seller that when I strip back those numbers, it's not only what I'm stripping back in the price, but somebody has to buy that house, then do all the work for that 100 grand, and then put all their time and effort to it and either resell it and make a profit or some point. So sellers always go, they try to logically go, well, it needs 100 grand of work. So if the comps in perfect condition are at 400, I should be at 300. No. You shouldn't be at 300. You should be at 250 because you still have to do the $100,000 of work to it. The person that's buying it has to put all their time, effort, and risk into it. And then they need to resell the property at some point. So that's hopefully going to help with remodels. What are your thoughts? Make sure I don't skip any, because a lot of them. All right, so D, do you look at newer roofs in description when looking at values of comps? No, I could care less about roofs. I've never thought about a roof in my entire life, looking at any comps. Again, the house should have a good roof. That's it. If you're asking me if one house has an older roof and one house has a newer roof, is there a pricing adjustment that should be done there? That still gets us back into our same questions of, if I'm in a house with a 20-year-old roof and they go, Brennan, we know the roof needs to be replaced, right? We know, hey, well, we don't want to do it. We're not going to do it. And I know that all the other comps have, I guess, newer roofs. I don't really look at it like that. I just go, okay, look, we're going to sell the house. They're going to do inspection and be prepared to do a concession for the roof or replace the roof once we get to inspection. But right now, people that's showing up to the house aren't going to jump up on the roof to make their offer or not. They might look at it and say, hey, look, they make their offer dependent upon having it have a new roof. But that's how I look at it, not as one has one does not. Would you wear a suit or tie or so D, so I skipped a, so sorry. So Pete, do you or should you do line by line adjustments when doing a CMA? So do you or should you? No, never, 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 never do line by line. Remember, you're not an appraiser. You're not an appraiser. You're showing them average market value. And here's the easiest way to think about this. Let's say that your sold comps aren't really helping you out too much. Let's look at, and I'll do this in the meeting. I'll pull up my phone for their neighborhood or zip code. Usually I do the entire zip code, and I'll pull up my phone and I'll go, let's look at every active home that's listed 500 to 600,000 here in XYZ city. All right. So you see that, now you see all the square footages. If we were listed at this price, at our above ground square footage, we would be the number 17th best overall value. There's 16 properties that would be below us that have the similar square footage or bigger, that are priced less than us, that are a better value overall. Well, Brendan, what about my view and what about this? I understand that, take it all into consideration, but all things being similar on square footage and price, there's 16 other options that are currently better than you right now. That's also how I do price adjustments, right? You got to take them out of comp to comp, line to line, hot tub versus no hot tub, washing machine versus no washing machine, raccoon versus no raccoon, right? You've got to look at it and strip it all down from that step by step and get it to be logical. All right. Okay, so let's go to Pete. What are your thoughts on pricing the house below market value to drive up the price? Okay, yeah. So remember on our pricing triangle, right? If we price it below market value, we know that we're going to get more offers and create a bidding war. Is that going to make you a hero in the eyes of the seller? Absolutely. The more offers you get in the shortest time frame possible are better than no offers or one offer after 3 weeks. So the answer to that is, I'm not saying that you should price it below market value. I'm saying depending upon the seller's timing situation and where the market's at, that the lower you go based upon where market value is, the more you're going to guarantee that the market's going to respond and provide you multiple offers. Okay. But we don't even have a crystal ball on what true market value is. Even that price per square foot number that we came up with, or even what the last home sold with, that's still, there's a lot of variations that could happen in there. We're trying to make sure that you are in a position to get the highest price possible. So yeah, that's a great question.
So we had one earlier, Brendan, and I don't want to miss this one because I know a couple of people are looking for this answer. So Michael asks, how do you handle the usual objection to what would you list the house at for it to sell in the next 30 days? Which always seems to be, well, that's why you brought me in today. What would you sell it for? We have no idea.
Yeah, yeah. So when I ask them and they don't give me a number, they go, well, that's why you're here, jerk off, is to tell me the number. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Wonderful. You must be a D driver personality. So I go, well, that's an excellent question. And I go, Anna, it's not what I think you should list it for. It's what the market is telling us you should list the property for. And based upon all of the information, that number is X. And I will give them a number. And it's usually not a number that is the number they want to hear, right? So, and now after we have this break, I'm going to take you into another strategy, which is our intelligent pricing strategy, or excuse me, our internet marketing pricing strategy. Gosh, so many strategies, right? So when we do internet pricing, I always try to get them to understand how buyers look at the market and how they look at the MLS. And I'm going to show you that here in a second, or that at your website to search properties. And that also helps me get them logical about where to best position the home. So if I know that this property is going to sell at $500,000 in 1 week, and I know that market value backs up my case and all of my comps support that number, then that's the number I'm going with. And that's what market value is. And they go, well, Brendan, what? 500? We were expecting, Zillow says it's on for 550. So why is that so far off? Well, unfortunately, Zillow is a computer and it's utilizing a digital algorithm to try to get clients to utilize their website. Do you think Zillow wants to tell people that their house is 50, 60, 100 grand under what the value is? No, you wouldn't come back to the site. So it's a computerized algorithm which is used for marketing to attract buyers to their site to then to get you to respond to it, which they turn into leads to sell to agents. Now, would you rather believe that, or somebody that's been selling real estate professionally full-time that's sitting in your home that knows all this information? Okay, so we've got to strip that back. All right, so now I hope that answered the question. If not, let me know. What are your thoughts on pricing the house below market? We talked about that. Would you wear a suit or tie for women dress, suit heels when going to a seller in blue collar neighborhoods? Absolutely, absolutely. So for years, I got so many listings from being in a suit and tie. And again, as I just said, sitting on a bucket in a suit and tie with a raccoon running by, right? That helped, and it was gross. And I had to, get my dry cleaning done after that in the entire house. But that representation, I would always get this answer. I'm going with you, Brendan, because you seem to be the most professional. All things being equal, you know what? I used to hear this all the time too. I really liked Catherine. She was super nice, really enjoyed her company. She was wonderful. But Brendan, I need every dollar out of this. You just seem a lot more professional and a lot more energetic and a lot more aggressive. And I need every dollar. So we're going to go with you. Okay? You're never going to offend anybody by being too overdressed. Now, you show up in a tuxedo, might be a little bit of a different story, right? But you're a walking billboard. The way that I present myself in a presentation is exactly how people are going to judge me on what I'm going to do for their property and how I'm going to represent them. So great question. Do Do you have some sort of list or list of what you give for values of items? I know you mentioned for not being appraiser. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So, well, not necessarily, not for extra baths and this stuff. Again, guys, not for any of that stuff. If one's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath and one's a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, am I going to price that $2,600 more for that extra bedroom? No, I don't ever get into that. I go in your neighborhood, these homes that are all similar but have some differences, all came in at X. Based on the averages, knowing everything that we know, taking all things into consideration, if we priced here, we know that we'd be a great value in the eyes of the market and you can expect to receive offers. Every dollar you go above that is the less likely that you're going to receive any offers and then eventually get lowball offers. That's a great question though. Yeah, stay away from bedrooms, baths, 1-car garage versus 4-car garage, this versus that. Now, the only thing I will say is you have to be very careful in your market analysis when you're looking at lot size, right? Lot size is one of those big determining factors where if I have all considerations the same, but a house is on a double lot and one house is not on a double lot, I get this question all the time. How do you value the extra money for that extra lot, right? How do you come up with the value for the extra lot? Well, when you look at that extra lot, right? If you really wanted to strip this all back, you would have to go and say, okay, look, based on having the extra lot, I would try to find any other comparable homes, even if I had to go back further, that sold with an extra lot, right? So let's say there was 3 in the last year, 2 years, and then I would see if there was a price per square foot difference of selling with that extra lot versus the one that did. Otherwise, all that lot becomes is a bonus to everybody else that's looking to buy it. Now, does it increase the value? Of course it does, but I'm not going to sit there and try to figure out if it's $7,500, $9,000. I'm going to try to find other similar comparables and utilize that information. Now, here's the question I also get on that, or get on this. Brendan, my property backs up to a busy road, right? Backs up to Colorado Boulevard. Well, what is the pricing difference I should do for that price versus a home that's on the interior, right? How do you determine that noise value? Same thing. I go further back and try to find similar homes, even if they on that same road or not, I have to go further back to show them the price per square foot difference of homes that sold on the major road versus homes that were 5-6 blocks in, and get them to understand the logical difference of price per square foot of what those properties were getting. So I'm going to come back to the presentation just for a second, and then I'm going to answer, I'll stay all the time after to answer any of your questions. I have a last few points for everybody that's attending the class that these are the PowerPoints that you're really going to want to know. So all great questions. Let me jump back to the screen share. I don't know why my little share button is not here. So just a second. Oh, got it. All right, here we go. Cool, cool. And we're back. All right. All right, so thanks for hanging in there. All right, so let's put it all together. We talked about the CMA. Now we're going to look at, oh, sorry, I was supposed to talk about this. So next week, we're doing another amazing class called Reset, Refocus, Restart. We're gonna be setting our second half goals for 2020. So we're hitting the reset button, forget everything that happened the first half of this year. Let's get legit for the rest of the year. I have an amazing system that I utilize for setting goals that are going to give you very simple understanding on what your target should be, very easy to have visualize or to have visual goals that can keep you motivated, keep you on track, that are kind of fun. So join us next Tuesday. And just to put that point, we do these classes every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m., every Tuesday from 9:30 to 11 a.m., where we're going to be taking you through something that hopefully can enhance your business and take it to the next level. So join us for that and register soon. So here's a picture from my personal website of what we were talking about with internet pricing strategy. So when I'm speaking to a seller and they go, Brendan, I want to list the property at 510,000. I go, okay, 510, because, right, their neighbor just sold at 5075, some random number. So they're like, we want to be at 510. I go, all right, well, let me share with you, Anna, my internet pricing strategy. Now, I'm sure as you're aware, Anna, that you know when you're online, people generally search for properties in $50,000 increments, right? I mean, I know you told me just the other day that you were looking at properties in Wash Park or whatever neighborhood, and you were looking at different properties. Did you notice that when you put in your criteria, it asks you to search from 850 to 900, 950, and then in the $1 million, it gets like bigger, $100,000 and all that. Did you notice that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly. And so when we're looking at that, it's the same thing of every consumer. So if we look at it and we go exposure, and the more eyes on your property gets you more offers and a higher price, then we have to look at that. If we listed it at 510, we'd be losing everybody that's searching online that's looking 450 to 500, right? For $10,000 in list price difference. And we know here in XYZ area, that's one of the biggest search parameter categories that we have. So here's a strategy that I'd like to make sure you understand. If we list the property exactly at 500,000, we're going to attract everybody looking from 450 to 500 and everybody looking from 500 to 550. You just doubled your exposure to all of the entire market by putting it in a price position that opens you up to that bigger window. Now, you do want to make sure that you get as many buyers looking at the property as possible to get the highest price, correct? Exactly. Of course you do. So that's why this makes more sense. No, Anna, nothing drives me more nuts than to see people list at $499. $499. Why would you? Are you selling a VCR? Are you selling a DVD box set? No, we're selling a $500,000 asset. Let's have a strategy on how the buyers look at it. So if I'm at 500, I'm getting double the exposure, right? That's extra. Now, whether you believe in this strategy or not, I've had people, talk about it, all this. Here's the thing. It's a strategy. The gal that came in before me, guess what their pricing strategy was? Okay. That was their strategy. Okay. You want to list at 510? Sounds good. There was no strategy involved in it. Now, in reverse, if they want to list at 440, should I take it to 450? No. After all, we know no matter what, internet pricing strategy, period, end of story, will tell us that no matter what, even opening it up to more buyers, the lower price is still going to attract more buyers, period, end of story. So don't ever utilize this to go up unless it's $499, right? If we're going a smidgen up to make it more logical. But yeah, if I'm at 490, I'm not going to jack it up to 450, or excuse me, 500, okay? So this is a powerful tool. I use this on every presentation, whether they want to do it or not. Now, will I still list a property at 475? Of course I will, right? But I always let them know that if they would have been at 450, they would have had twice as many buyers. So guess what happens when I get to the first price adjustment conversation after the initial weekend? Hey, we didn't have the showings that we expected. We didn't have the people there. You had 3 people come through the home, no offers. Remember that pricing strategy I was telling you about? It's because we're $25,000 higher than that pricing strategy. So what would you like to do? Okay. All right. Pricing objections. Whoop, almost fell. So Anna, let's just do this because I know that, when we do scripts, Anna, how many times have you ever used scripts?
Twice.
Yeah. Not very often, right? That's why I think the script is amazing to show you how powerful this is if you learn it. So Anna's going to be the agent. I'm going to be the seller, and I'm going to go through this objection with her. So Anna, you know what? Why don't we just list the price high and come down later?
Brendan, I can appreciate you want to list high, but unfortunately, we know the most activity we will see on your home is in the first 2 weeks. So if we list above market value, we miss out on the first 2 weeks of excitement. And by weeks 3 and 4, we'll be attracting the bottom feeders, forcing us to do a price reduction. You do want to net the most money possible, correct?
Yeah, we need every dollar.
Great, then let's do the right thing and list at 450. Excellent,
give her a hand digitally. All right, yeah, so that's as easy as it is. So that's the number 1. And these are all in my script book, which you can get on our private Facebook page. Just go there. And then we also have all the 50 most common objections handled on that. So now here's the second one that I really want to, this is the other one I always hear. So Anna, why is your suggested listing price so much lower than the other agents we talked to? They told us we could list at 550. You're telling us 500.
Brendan, are you familiar with the term buying the listing?
No.
No? Okay. Here's what it means. It means another agent is going to tell you a much higher price to make you excited, to make you want to list your home with them. And then every week they're going to come back and beat you up for a price reduction to bring it back to market value. You do want to net the most money possible, correct?
Yes, of course we do.
Yes, of course you do. That's why it's vitally important we list the property at the current market value, not fantasy value.
Wow. Right? So you see, that's why scripts and dialogues are so important, and this works every single time. Great job, Anna. Well done. All right. So objection handling pro tips. Here's the one thing that I work on with most of my clients, and this is the hardest thing to do because it's embedded in our minds to be this way. Never provide your opinion. I think, I recommend, in my opinion. Right? You've got to, if you hear you saying that, you've got to think that, I always say this in my other class last week with scripts, you have that electric dog collar thing that shocks you when you bark. Imagine you have that on your neck, and every time you say, I think, I recommend, if it was me, I would do this, my opinion, you're getting shocked, right? Get that out of your mind. Instead, you want to use language like the market is telling us based on the comparables. The average price per square foot is, right? Keep everything logical and stay away from emotion. Here's the reason why this is so important. And people laugh about this, but it's very important. I tell you, I think you should list it at 500,000. 2 weeks goes by, nothing happens. They go, well, Brennan, you're the one that told us to list it at 500,000. If I say I think, or in my opinion, or I recommend, if I get to that conversation in 2 weeks, I go, unfortunately, Anna, what I said is at the time, the market was telling us the value was 500,000. Unfortunately, the buyers haven't responded to that list price. So now we have 3 options to move forward from here. Option number 1 is do nothing and hope and pray that the right buyer shows up. Option number 2, we can add more value to the home, meaning that we can remodel the kitchen, bring in landscaping, remove the raccoon. Or number 3, we can adjust the price to attract more buyers so the home will sell and get you to Arizona. What would you like to do? Okay. So I can't do that if I said, I think, my recommend, my opinion, right? So those are big deals. So, all right. So now putting it all together, what action will you take as a result of what you've learned today? All right. So think about that. If you have a piece of paper, write that down. Again, learning without implementation is stupidity, right? If you learn these things and you don't go and implement any of these things, it's an absolute waste of time. So put it in the chat box. I love seeing it in the chat box. I'm also going to come back and answer a bunch of your questions. As I said, we have our 50 most common real estate objections, our script book for free for you on our private Facebook page. Go check that out at Brendan Bartic Real Estate Coaching. Next week at 9:30, right? Oh, excuse me. No, this isn't it. So go to our YouTube page. This is one of our cool things. Sorry, I thought it was a class. So if you want to learn how to do all kinds of things, I've got classes on expireds, for sale by owners, scripts, dialogues. Go to our YouTube page. It's just Brendan Bartic Real Estate Coaching. And then lastly, if you're interested in elite coaching, so one-on-one, I have elite coaching offerings. And then we also do a great, amazing group coaching program. Just email me at info@brendanbartic.com. And then again, we go through an entire consultation process to see if our system would be right for you. Now, if you would like our full listing presentation, okay, and talking about everything we do, if you'd like or have any interest in that and this beautiful product here where you can just plug your pretty little face in and move forward with what we do, which we teach in another class, you can also email us and we can talk about how we can make that work for you. Other than that, I thrive on your guys' energy and feedback. That's why we do these classes. So please drop me a comment, hit me up with a review. When you see a class come across that you think another agent could find useful, share it with them. And I really appreciate you guys. And of course, I always wish you great success. So I'm going to unstop my screen share, and then I will stick around and go through these questions. And I'm sure a lot of these will help a lot of people. And Anna, I'm not sure where I left off because I saw some more coming in quickly.
Yeah, let's take a look here.
So let me go back. All right, I think I got it. Okay.
Okay.
So taking a look at the rest of the questions, regarding roofs, we talked about that. Got that. So Treva, I believe, is that it? Treva, that's a really cool name. Once you ask seller about what they want to list at and they say a number, you know it isn't right. You ask questions to provide info showing it isn't realistic. Do you then give a specific suggested price? Yes, so that is a great question, right? So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about. So I ask them, what do you want to list it at? They say something crazy number, and I don't go into my price. No, I go, okay, let's break that down into square footage, or let's break that down versus the most comparable property that's sold in the last X amount of days, okay? So I would look at that, whatever the comp that was the closest to theirs, they're 100 grand over it. Let's go back and break that down piece by piece. I still don't get them to a number. Now, as I start going through that, I start hinting at the numbers and I say, well, that one was at 500. You're wanting to be here. You see, how are we going to get there? What are we going to do? And then they usually come down naturally. And then eventually it will lead to the conversation of, so what do you think, Brendan? What do you think? It's not what I think. The market's telling us that based upon to get you the most offers and get you sold, that the price should be at 500. The further you go above that number, the less activity and offers you'll have, if any offers at all. The further you go below that number, the more likely you're going to get a great offer and close on the home. What would you like to do? Regarding comps, if there aren't many buy levels, would you suggest using 2 stories as some of your comps? Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, when I'm looking at buy levels, ranches, tri-levels, all of that, you can use them all. As I said, I just try to go back historically and show the difference of if ranches sold at $10 more a square foot, then I'm going to know that. If buy level sold at this or whatever, I can usually show that information. Does it make a massive difference? What it's going to make a massive difference on is when you look at ranches, if you're looking at ranch properties, the finished square footage, a lot of times, since it's going to be a walkout, maybe a walkout ranch basement, is that's going to throw off your finished and above ground square foot, because on a lot of ranch homes, their finished square footage is going to be a lot different. So that's going to throw off your price per square foot on your single line stat page. So be very cognizant of that, because you'll see random square footages because of ranch versus above ground 2-story, or 2 stories without a finished basement. So yeah, that's a great question. But yeah, you got to use whatever comps you have to do. Remember, you're just trying to prove your case of what you know market value to be. That's all you're trying to do. Okay. Does seller concessions benefit the buyer and seller? Does seller concessions benefit the buyer and seller? Okay, so Miss Forrest. So I think I understand what you're asking. A lot of times I get questions of, and this is probably something I didn't cover, I get questions all the time. Brendan, does it make sense for us to replace the carpet before we take the property to market? Brendan, does it make sense for us to do the remodel before we go to market? Now, unless it's absolutely disgusting, the answer is always no. The answer is, let's list the property, provide a concession in lieu of upgrading or updating those items, because I don't want to delay in going to market. Think about how many people shot themselves right in the foot when they decided to wait to go on the market before COVID-19 happened. We know right now we're at the pinnacle of a selling market. I want to take advantage of that with you right now. So let's add a concession for it. Now, if all the buyers decide that they don't want to do the items, we can always pull the market off later, but let's take a shot at the right price with providing a concession in lieu of the repairs instead of pricing it that way now. Okay. Elizabeth, during this COVID crisis, is time less of a factor? I have a listing and showings are fewer and far between. I don't think that altering the price will make a difference. What are your thoughts? Oh, Elizabeth. Yes, of course, adjusting the price will make a difference. 100 million%. We're selling properties every single day. Adjusting the price will, of course, every price adjustment you do, if it's substantial enough, is basically like you getting a brand new listing. Because you're hitting that, what are those paddles called? The clear, you're pumping life back into that dead stale listing that's starting to code out on my ambulance floor, right? And I'm trying to bring, so yes, we know 2 factors, going back to the beginning of the presentation, the 2 factors that affect real estate, price and time. You price any property aggressively enough, it will sell. You wait long enough, It'll eventually get there, but I think most of us don't have 4-year listing agreements. Our clock is ticking from day one. As soon as I take that listing, I don't look at a 6-month listing agreement. I pretend that I have the hourglass, that I flip that hourglass over, and as the sand starts to fall through it, I've got 30 days to get this done. And maybe that's even generous in my mind, because then after 30 days, the sellers aren't happy with me. I want ecstatic sellers. You know what causes sellers to be happy? Selling. That's what makes them happy. They like to be sold. This is a very stressful time for them. That's what makes them happy. So get to that point. Don't worry so much about what you think in the price. Now, the other question you should be asking yourself is, what is the right amount? So here's a pricing question that's a powerful one. And I really want to drive this one home with you. I get clients all the time that say to me, well, Brendan, we're listed at 500. Why don't we just, you know what, Brendan, fine. We'll reduce it to 495. I'm sorry, what? Why would I do a $5,000 price adjustment? Here's where you have to have confidence and be bold. You know what, Anna, we could adjust it $5,000. But Anna, wouldn't you agree that right now, buyers would be making offers on your property if they thought that the only difference was $5,000? Does that make sense? Right? If we went and looked at properties today, and you were with me and we were going to look at homes, and we were looking at homes that were listed at 500 and we were interested in it, don't you think we would make an offer at 495 if we thought that that was the value? So unfortunately, a $5,000 adjustment is not going to do anything. So my recommendation, Anna, let's either leave it at the same price or get more serious about an adjustment that's actually going to cause a buyer to do something different. Well, Brendan, then what is that number, right? Now, in pricing adjustments, I'm going double whatever the number probably should be, because I'm going to end up halfway back in the middle, right? So if they ask me what that number is, I'm going to say 450. And they're going to go, what? A 50,000 price adjustment? Brendan, are you out of your freaking... Well, you asked me the number that you wanted me to get the home to sell at. It'll sell at 450. You know, we'll be in a much better position to sell it for 450. You're out of your mind. You're no way. There's no blah, 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 blah. Okay, then what number would you like to put it at to make it more realistic to draw attention to the buyers? I mean, we could probably go to 490. I mean, and that's even pushing it, Brendan. We could go to 490, you know, blah, blah. Okay, I understand. Okay. So at 490, again, do you think $10,000 difference has inhibited anybody from making an offer on the property right now? And then I go down and down until we usually end up at 475 or something that's significant enough that's going to draw attention to the property. So hope that helps. All right. Will you share what the top components you use to comp square footage, type, beds, bath, time, distance as examples? Absolutely. Yeah, we'll send that out to everybody afterwards. That's no problem. Oh, and that's Kazan. And first of all, Kazan, if you're still on, I just want to tell everybody, Kazan is amazing. She left me an amazing testimonial that we sent out to a lot of people. And again, what I love about Kazan is, just like everybody on this call, she wants to get better and better every single day. And she goes to almost every class. She learns all of these things, and then to watch her implement them into her business has just been a fantastic pleasure. So thank you, Kazan, for being amazing. Treva, I know you've done thousands of CMAs, so you are very efficient at them. How long does it take you to do an average CMA from start to finish? That's a great question. Yeah, so from start to finish, meaning binding, you know, the whole production of all of it, I'm probably right around a half hour. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's just because it's simple. When I look at the MLS, I just go, I have my parameters already set, and I start small, go out bigger until I have the comps that I think I need. Boom, then I go straight to the single line stat page report. I print those out. I already have all the other things pre-made. Print out the Altos report, go to the binding machine at our office, bind that puppy up, and out the door, right? Now, you could get in your head. I always, every time, and now I stopped. One of the big things that we teach in another class is, my biggest goal was to never have to do another CMA personally myself. And so then you start hiring assistants, and you start hiring administrative staff that help you out, and they do all my CMAs for me. So think about how crazy this is. And this is where people they're like, I could never do that because I know how to price the property. I used to do 6 to 10 listing appointments a week. I would have the package delivered to me, go on the appointment, go into this appointment completely blind. I would take about 3 minutes to look through the comps before I'd walk into that front door. 3 minutes. Walk through the front door, because it was always the same thing. Once you really understand this, you get out of the understanding of this is some like to the penny analysis. It's the same thing. We've got actives, we've got under contracts, and we've got a couple solds. These are here, I take you through it. And I would take them through it one by one when I was doing the presentation, because it was really me looking at it for the first time a lot of the times as well, right? So I was looking through it and they were like, well, that one, they were like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, that one is $25,000 higher, because it doesn't matter. It's all logical. Comps are comps. Now, if I was missing a comp, the question I haven't heard today, which I was expecting to hear, what if you miss a comp, right? Just happened to me the other day. I was in a past client Firestone, and there was 2 different MLSs, and this comp was in Iris and not showing up in our MLS. So the comp wasn't in my CMA. I didn't do the CMA. My amazing administrative assistant, Kylie, did the CMA. So of course, to my surprise, of course, anger rushes into my body that I missed a comp that just closed 3 doors down 2 weeks ago. It's not in my CMA. I'm like, are you kidding me? You son of a, right? And so in my head, but I'm sitting there smiling and I'm like, oh, so weird. All right, so what is the comp again? They were like, their house is like 7753. The house was like 7757 or something like that. And I was like, oh, well, actually, all right, well, show that to me. Interesting. Yeah, well, what you see happened here is that the agent didn't close that out correctly in the MLS. So it's actually, showing as withdrawn, not as a closed sale. So for some reason, it didn't pull in my market analysis. So let me take okay, so I see the square footage and I just keep it moving, right? Just keep it moving. Things are gonna come up on the fly. Comps are gonna be wrong. Things are gonna be screwed up. You're gonna miss certain things. Just be really nice and be like, interesting. I'm sure, yeah, the MLS, a lot of these agents that I work with, they're not as sophisticated as me. They don't close out their properties correctly. And so I have terrible information. So I apologize. I'm glad that you brought this one up. And that's it. Okay. All right. I know you got that. Would you say the same? Would you say the same for someone whose home is worth 490, bump it up to 500? Colt, yeah, we talked about that. Never go up, always go down. So what if they want to list at 475 and you say bigger buyer pull at 450 and they say, well, let's go to 500. I go, well, unfortunately, that's a great question, right? And they say, so that was Terry. So yeah, they say, let's go to 500. Yeah, so unfortunately at 500, that would put us at a price per square foot that's another $40, $60, $80, $100 out of the realm of reality, right? So the only way this has worked, what I'm telling you is, Anna, is even at 475, we're already on the higher side of where the pricing is. The closer we are or at 450 is gonna help you get that offer and get multiple offers to get you to sell. Brendan, could you do a workshop on building your own listing presentation? Absolutely, yes. Yeah, we actually teach an entire course called List Like a Boss, where we tell you every single step of how to build it out 100%, every component, everything that you need. So feel free to email us on the next time that we're offering that. And then we also are going to be offering it in an online course that you can get 24 hours a day at your leisure. I will stop doing Dominique, I will stop doing line item deductions and improve my research to bring my listing appointment. I love it. That is fantastic. I'm not on Facebook. Can I get the free booklet from Facebook? I'm not on Facebook. So Ms. Forrest, yes. If you email me at info@brendanbartic.com, we'll get that out to you. Anna, did I miss anything else? I just want to make sure I got a lot of thank yous.
No, it looks
Victoria, I didn't realize I'd gotten rather lazy with my CMA presentation. Thank you for helping completely. And that's a great comment right there, right? You know, it's like I kind of got comfortable. I've been doing it a certain way so long. I'm not saying mine's gosh gift to CMAs. I'm saying that I've done it a lot and I always took pride in the presentation, right? Take pride in the presentation. It's going to help you with getting higher commission. It's going to help you with competing on different listings. It's going to help you in the future when they go to refer you to the next person. They're going to be like, look, you really are concerned about your price. That guy, Brendan, is dialed in. He has this comparative market analysis that he presented us. I mean, wow, blew us away. He knows everything, yada, yada, yada. So just look at that. Then we've got, how does seller concessions affect the sale price compared to lowering the price of that same amount? So Catherine, how does seller concessions affect the sale price compared to lowering the price that same amount? So, oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, well, that's, it's just more like a mental thing. That's a great question. So why list it at 500 with a $5,000 commission instead of just listing it at 495? Well, the reason for the concession is because you're already identifying the issue. You're saying, look, we know that the roof needs to be replaced. The hot water is garbage. The carpet is disgusting. So we're listing it at what market value should be, but we're providing a concession for that specific issue that we know is wrong. If I just listed at 495, then buyers are going to come in and they go, well, at 495, we still need $5,000 for carpet. So they're going to be looking at 490. Great question. Excellent question. Do you offer concessions with roofs or have the seller use the insurance to fix them before placing the home on the market? Well, I never have the seller replace it before putting it on the market because number one, it could slow me down of getting it to market. A roof is a solvable, fixable item. People get so worried about roofs. There's nothing different of a roof compared to a hot water heater compared to a light bulb. It's just a more expensive item. So would I stop putting a house on the market because the light bulb needed to be replaced? No. It's the same thing. You're just worried about it because you think it's a bigger expenditure item. That's a bigger of concern. Now, could it maybe take longer to replace it? Would you have to do certain adjustments? Can you, we've done everything to get roofs replaced, from holding money out of escrow to doing, this, to doing that. That's what you get paid for, to solve and do negotiations. But I'm not letting anything hold up me getting to market ever. 2 weeks ago, I met with an expired who was a FSBO 10K less than the previous appraisal. What do you tell them? Was appraiser wrong? So Rich, great question. So 2 weeks ago, I met with an expired who is a for sale by owner now, who is now listed $10,000 less than the previous appraisal. What do you tell him? Was the appraiser wrong? Oh, great question. Well, appraised value isn't market value, period. Appraised value is not market value. So again, I hear, and I get this a lot. That's a great, great question, Rich. I get questions all the time about this. Well, even the seller did a refi 6 months ago. Seller refi came in 6 months ago. So look, we refied 6 months ago at $1.5 million. And Brendan, you're telling us $1.3 million. Well, first of all, a refi appraisal is for the bank to lend you money based upon certain factors. It's not telling us what the market value is of what the home would sell for in today's market. So market value, Mr. For sale by owner, is XYZ. It's not a matter if the appraiser was wrong or not. The appraiser put his opinion at that time. You're not sold. So what's more important, the opinion of the appraiser or that the buyer's opinion, because they're not making offers on your property? I would say it's the buyer's opinion that's more valuable than the appraiser's, unless the appraiser is going to buy your house. And I don't think the appraiser is going to buy your house, correct? Cool. So always make it about, this is the other phrase I use 1,000 times a day. Buyers create the value for your property, not me or you. They're the ones that determine the value, not me or you. And in the eyes of the buyer right now, you're not a strong enough value for them to want to make an offer. Or if I'm on the listing presentation, we need to make sure that you're a strong enough value in the eyes of the buyer. So excellent. Hope that one helped. Congress Park, there's still a few properties with no garages. I'm listing one today. There has been no comparable sales. What to do? Offer a 15,000 garage concession. So Leslie, great question again. So when I'm looking at garage concessions, we're still going back to the same kind of point. Yes, is there a difference for now, if we're talking identical houses, Leslie, if the comps in Congress Park, which I know none of those houses are identical, but if we're looking in Congress Park and it was an identical home, identical lot, identical everything comparable, and one had a garage and one did not, what would you give the value for that garage? Now, the easiest way to answer that is, what value would that garage add to a buyer versus all the other properties that were available? Okay. So if I was looking in Congress Park right now and I had $1 million to spend in Congress Park, and 3 of the properties had no garages and 1 of the properties had a garage, and they were all listed at $1 million, would I list mine a little bit higher because I have the garage, or would I list mine exactly the same, knowing that that garage is going to be the bonus that gets me offers to compete against the other homes that are currently available? This is the hardest part that everybody's having the problem with, is you're not trying to put a value on a specific item. If I'm selling a farm or a ranch with a horse property, and the horse property has a massive, massive riding ring and barn and all these, millions of different little things, and the next ranch doesn't have it, but all things being considered, they're pretty darn close, but they're not close because one is on 14 acres, one's on 12 acres, one's house is nicer, one is not nicer. You can get lost in all of these things because they're not identical. There's no two horse properties, for the most part, that are identical. So each one of them are going to have features and benefits. What I'm trying to dial you on Anna, as my seller is, what's going to make you the best overall value in today's market to get you the highest offer possible? Okay? So yeah, just you'll drive yourself insane if you get into this 15, 7,000, 9,000, 5-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 6-bedroom, 2-bath, all of these different things. Yes, they all are important. I'm not questioning a single one of them, especially the analytical people. You're like, look, Brendan, you don't get it. It's freaking numbers, and numbers don't lie. We're not trying to determine a number value. We're trying to determine market value. If I go to Craigslist, and let me just put this out there, and then if I go to Craigslist and I put my bike on Craigslist for $500, and all the other bikes on Craigslist are listed at $300, my bike might have carbon fiber, do all of these amazing things and all this stuff. Is there a value difference in the two bikes? Yes. If nobody comes to buy my bike, the only option I have is to lower the price. If I lower it enough, somebody will eventually buy my bike. I just did this. So perfect example, we replaced a ceiling fan in our house. I was like, it was a really nice ceiling. It was like a $500 ceiling fan, but of course, wife didn't like the color. There you go. Out goes the fan, right? You put that fan, yeah, you put that fan, had it, she was like, yeah, I don't like it. Oh, great. So $500, lit that on fire. Put it on Craigslist for, I think, $300, right? It's a $500 fan. No one comes. Put that same fan, lower the price to $200, $100. I basically lowered that fan price to $30 for somebody to just come and take it away because I felt guilty putting it in the trash can. There's not much different in the housing system. People get so caught up in this. There's not much difference than that ceiling fan. I put a price on it. I thought that was good. And here's what I did. I looked at I said, other ceiling fans on there are this, but mine's way nicer, right? I looked at that, knowing all that, tried it. Nope, 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 nope. Now, if I would have put it on at $100 out of the gate, would I maybe have gotten $100? That's the question, right? That's the question. So cool. So I hope that, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Leslie. I'm glad that worked. Yeah. So again, hope that helped. I think if there's anything else that we didn't answer here, I apologize. It's not our intention. Send your questions to info@the-Bartic group or jump on our Facebook group. Of course, I'm always around. I'm here to help you guys with anything else. Thank you so much for joining. Hope you guys have a great day and price well.